Unit 4, Lesson 7 deals with finding slope from a graph. So we want to be able to look at a graph of a line and tell what the slope is. So first things first, we have to know what slope means. We're talking about the steepness of a line. Okay, it's a measurement. All right, it's going to be a fractional answer in most cases. All right, where we're going to talk about mostly today rise over run. Okay, in the future you'll hear us talk about or use the terms change in y over change in x, and we're definitely going to learn this formula y2 minus y1 equals x2 minus x1. Okay, for slope we use the abbreviation, the letter M for an abbreviation instead of the letter S. We'll talk more about that in class. All right. Before we go any further, there's two special cases, all right, that we want to introduce you to, all right, that usually have some different rules to them. All right. Horizontal lines are lines that have no vertical change. Those are lines that go from left to right, so lines that look like this. All right. Those lines have a slope of 0. Vertical lines are pretty much the opposite. They're lines that go up and down. Okay, there's no horizontal change, and what we call that slope is undefined. All right, so make sure you have all this information down. You're supposed to write down everything you see. All right, let's move on. So in general, there's 4 types of slope. Okay, there's positive slope, which is slope of a line that's going uphill. So for example, if I drew a line in here like this, all right, when we read a graph, we read from the left point to the right point. You'll notice from left to right, my line went up. That's what we refer to as uphill. Obviously, the negative means quite the opposite. We're going to go the other way. All right. So again, when I read from left to right, you'll notice that the line is falling. All right. We would refer to this, by the way, we talk about rise over run. Okay. We would be rise over run here, and we'll use the term fall over run here. Rise and fall. Okay. Horizontal lines are lines like we just talked about a minute ago that have no vertical change. So they look like this. All right. When you look from left to right, you'll notice the L and the R are at the same level because they didn't rise up or fall at all. And undefined lines, kind of hard to talk about with left to right. All right, because there really is no left or right. There's only up and down on them. Okay, so I'm not even going to put the L and R on there. All right, so this is in general, positive sloping lines are ones that are going uphill, negative are going downhill. All right, so let's go ahead and find the slope of a few lines here. Example 1, A. We're asked to find the slope of a line, so we want to know M equals what it's going to be. Okay, in order to do this, I need to locate ordered pairs or points on my graph. So for example, there's the point 0, 5. Okay, if I go backwards 1, right here I find another point that is -1, 3. Okay, those are both points that have integer values for x and y. That's important. Okay, we'll talk more about that in the next example. But first of all, let's finish this one. Okay, when I read rise over run, okay, what I'm going to do is, again, start at the point on the left and work to the point that's on the right. So for this one, I would have to go up 1, 2 units. So there's my rise. The run refers to going to the right to get to that point. All right, slope is kind of like directions. All right, if you were telling someone how to get to your house, you would say, oh, go 2 blocks this way, take a right, go 3 blocks that way. Okay, that's kind of what slope is doing. All right, and then we would simplify 2 over 1 is just 2. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at B. Okay, in B, we're going to notice something different here. All right, so first of all, we still have that same point 0, 5, just coincidental. All right, if I move over 1 point to the right, I get 1, and I'm not quite sure what the y value is. It looks like 4.5. Okay, but I'm not really sure, and I don't want to guess. We don't want to use this point because it's not integer values. All right, I can move over here. Look, here's 2, 4. This is a good one. All right, let me go over here, 3, and I'm not sure what the y value is because it falls in between 3 and 4, so I don't want to use 3. Okay, you'll notice the next one, 4 works. The next one, 6, if I skip over, 6 works, 8 works, and so on. All right, so any of these points work. And the thing about slope is that it's a constant rate of change. Okay, so what that means is it doesn't matter which 2 points you pick, all right, as long as you count correctly, you're going to be okay. So let's say I choose this first point that we found, which is my point on the left, and I want to go all the way to this point right here instead of going to the shorter one. All right, here's what's going to happen. This is a negative slope, okay, so I'm going to be falling here. Down is negative, so I'll go down 1, 2, 3. So I have -3, and then from here I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I simplify. -3 over 6 is -1 over 2. Okay, now let's say I didn't want to choose these 2 points. Let's say I chose the ones that were closer. Like, for example, let me go with this one right here and this one right here. Okay. Again, I start at the point on the left and I work my way to the right. I have to go down 1. There's my -1. And then over 1, 2. And guess what? We have the same answer. Okay, and that's the whole idea of slope being constant. It doesn't matter which 2 points you choose, but they have to be points on the line. So make sure you're choosing your points wisely. All right, we're actually going to skip C. That's something we're going to do in class. All right, and we're going to do F together here. Okay. All right, and we're skipping D and E. You're also going to do those in class tomorrow. Okay, so far we've done one example of what we would call positive slope, one example of negative slope, and here's one special case that we're going to do together. All right, and when I look at example F, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to find points. Like, for example, that's -4, 5. That's a good point. I could go right here. That's -4, 2. Perfect. I found 2 points. All right. You'll notice there is no left and no right. Okay. Keep that in mind as we go to count. I always do rise over run first, so I'm going to start at the top, and or you can start at the bottom. It doesn't matter. All right. I could go either up 1, 2, 3, and call that +3, or I could go down and it's going to be negative. No big deal. All right. Then I get to my run, but I've already reached the point, so there is no movement here. Okay. Now, long time ago, you learned a rule that says you can't divide by 0. Okay, so 3 over 0 is the same as 3 divided by 0, which is why we call this undefined. You cannot divide by 0. It doesn't make sense. It's like saying, here's $5. Let's divide it amongst 0 people. Well, who gets it then? No one's getting it. So that's why we can't divide by 0. Okay, like I said, the other 3 we'll do in class tomorrow. All right, make sure you have all this down. And if you have any questions, you could stop by 1C or ask in class tomorrow.